Welcome to your darkest dreamscapes. This is Kaz. I'll be your host as we wind down the darker trails of existence, verging on the border of that which we can perceive clearly and that which we cannot. The boy in the glow-in-the-dark Muppet t-shirt. When I was 7 years old, my mother, my brother, and I lived in a small 3-bedroom house in a nondescript little town in west central Illinois. I'd been aware of the paranormal for quite some time, as we lived in a house that in the 1800s had been something like an abortion center. In the summer after my birthday, my grandmother bought me and my younger half-sister a glow-in-the-dark Muppet t-shirt that were at the time too big for us, so instead we used them as nightshirts. I loved the shirt, and I wore it all the time. That fall, though, after the leaves had fallen off the trees, I remember, because I looked out the window, I became scarred from that shirt for life. I'd fallen asleep lying in my usual spot. I had a small bedroom with a bunk bed, and I slept on the bottom bunk, my head in line with the window, but on the far side of the bed, a twin-sized mattress. I remember waking up mentally, realizing that Bluey, my stuffed rabbit, had fallen off the bed. I had an attachment issue to him, so it was kind of a big deal. Still, I hadn't opened my eyes because I felt as though somebody was watching me. I remember, through my eyelids, a bright green light and the same color as my shirt. I figured it was just that, my shirt, but I wanted to make sure. I pulled the covers over my head and opened my eyes. I hadn't looked at my shirt yet, but I remember vividly. The light was definitely coming from the other side of my blankets. I looked down and was shocked to realize that my shirt was plain white. No Muppets, no glow-in-the-dark, just a plain white t-shirt. Without removing the covers, I took the shirt off and checked every side of it, twice. There was still nothing there. I pulled the shirt back on, sat up, and yanked the covers down over my head so I could see. There, sitting at the end corner of my bed, was a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He had pale hair and dark eyes, and honestly, looked a lot like myself. We stared at each other for a few minutes. There was a smug look about him as he stared at me in a rather cool way, and I looked at him with what I'm sure was horror mixed with incredulity. Horror, because I knew he wasn't human, and incredulity, because on his impish little body was my Muppet shirt pattern. My Muppets were glowing at me from his spectral body, and they seemed scary at that point. I tried screaming for my mom, but my throat was tight, almost like I was paralyzed, or mute. I can only describe it by saying it was like I was going to cry, but I never did. After what seemed like an eternity, the spirit boy crawled over to me, his hands making little weighted indentations on the bed as he shifted forward, and he sat on his knees in front of me, between me and the window. He sat there for a minute, our noses maybe 3 inches apart, and then he smiled, or bared his teeth. His teeth, I remember, were normal, except that where he should have had canines, he had fangs. Fangs as in the big kind that dogs have, pointy and sharp, kind of curved but not much. I was still registering his teeth when he disappeared, just vanished. He didn't fade away. There was no transition at all. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. I felt like screaming, but I still couldn't speak. About 5 minutes after he left, the Muppets materialized. Yes, just slowly appeared where they belonged, on my shirt, on my body. I was too afraid to move, too afraid of what else might be in my room and under my bed, to go to my mom or even grab Bluey. A few weeks later, my great-grandfather Alan died. I've seen him 4 times since then, each time preceding a major, life-altering loss. I'd also like to point out that I've moved multiple times since then. I feel his presence a lot, but I still haven't seen him, which I'm glad for. He never grew up, at least in appearance. The time he appeared to me before my late boyfriend's car accident, though, he looked sad. I saw him in the mirror in my bedroom for a few seconds, looking as though he wanted to say something, but he disappeared before he could. Has anybody else ever experienced anything like this little boy? I don't think he's evil or good, but just there. I'm not sure, but I had to share. Hey, thanks for joining me tonight. Don't forget to like or subscribe if you enjoyed the story. And don't forget, there's always something in the basement.